Hello, my name is Leroy Blevins. Welcome to Mysteries and Histories. In this episode here, what I like to do is I want to talk about the picket fence gunman in the JFK assassination. Now, I know for years there was a lot of eyewitness accounts and people in their stories saying they was the man behind the picket fence and they took that fatal headshot to JFK. Okay, but when we look at their stories and we go over the stories, we can tell that there was no gunman behind the picket fence area. In my research, okay, a lot of people out there still believes these people's story, okay, but really they're just false stories. However, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you some images and everything else that we can look clearly see the picket fence area and everything else, and I'm going to show you that there was really no gunman behind the picket fence area. Okay, now as you see behind me, I got some images showing up here, okay, which we can see right here. This is the Mary Mormon photo. We can see from this point here to this point here, there is no gunman. Yeah, they sit there claim there's a badge man here, but if you watch my other videos, you can see there was no badge man there. But we can see from this point here to this point here, there is no gunman behind the picket fence area. Now, I'll show you, if you watch my cursor, the gunmen are right here. We can see this clear as plain as day. Okay, and plus there's other images and films and everything else to back up these two gunmen right here in this location. But we're going to talk about the picket fence area. There is no gunman behind the picket fence as seen in the Mormon photo. Now, we're going to look at the Zapruder film. That's part of the Zapruder film. We can see the corner of the fence right here, and we see there is no gunman right there whatsoever. And now we're going to look at some frames from the Orville Nix film. We can see from this point to this point, and when we're viewing it, we can see there is no motion behind the picket fence or anything else, no movement or anything else. This is frame 102. And this is frame 121. The only reason why I brought these two up, because you go from one point to the other point, and then we go from the other point all the way to the end of the picket fence area. There is no body seen behind the picket fence area, period. So what I did was I did this. Okay, first I'm going to pull up this image right here. Got this image here. We can see from this point all the way down to picket fence area. Now, we're going to take the pictures here. Zapruder film shows from this point to this point of the picket fence area, this location here, because we got the corner comes right to here, and then we got the gate going back. So basically, we got this coming across here, and then the corner of the picket fence, and then the fence going over this way. So it'll be from this point to this point. When we're standing here by the angle, this point to this point here shows no gunman there. Now we have the Mormon photo, which shows from this point here all the way over to this point here, and that'll show us from here, to here. So we see by the Mormon photo from this point to this point, there is no gunman behind a picket fence. And even in the Zapruder film, from this point to this point, there is no gunman behind a picket fence. Now we got the Orville Nix film that shows from this point to this point here at the end. Again, we see no gunman behind a picket fence area. Now remember, these trees here, okay, really wasn't there or even that big at that time. Okay, this tree was here. Those small little trees here, now they're a lot bigger. Remember, we're looking at an image taken recently to compare from 1963, because you can see there's these trees right here alone wasn't even that big, because you can see a lot of now all this is more shadowed in, and there's less shadows here. But there is nobody seen from this point to this point in the Orville Nix film. And there's nobody seen from this point to this point as seen in the Mormon photo. And this is taken right around the headshot time. And then we got this point here to point here. Okay, it shows no gunman behind a picket fence. Now, we know we told, and I made a video about this, they said Frank Sturgis was there. Okay, and he also said that E. Howard Hunt was there. He was the old tramp. And then he also said Charles Harrelson was there. Okay, none of these guys actually claimed that they was really there to portray an assassination of JFK. Really, none of them has. People add that stuff into the story. Okay, just like when he came to E. Howard Hunt. E. Howard Hunt's brought in because of these recordings supposedly he's done of the big event, which the big event, he never specifies what was the big event. It was just the big event. Okay, Frank Sturgis comes in by somebody, researcher says, hey, here it is. Here's Frank Sturgis. He was there, which we could tell this wasn't Frank Sturgis whatsoever, this tall tramp, because this tall tramp was also told as being Charles Harrelson as well. And then we have another person out there who claims that This is the short tramp right here, which is Charles Harrelson, okay, Woody Harrelson's father, okay. But none of them claim that they was the assassin. They took that shot, fatal headshot, or anything else. But there was one guy that did claim that he was the assassin, and he took that fatal headshot, and that was James Files. But James Files' story does not even fit in there that day. As I pointed out in my other videos and stuff, there was two gunmen inside of shelter number 3. He didn't even talk about it. He's talking about a gunman was in Daltech's building, and then him behind the picket fence area. Oswald was just a patsy. Okay, but there's 13 shots fired. There was no gunman inside the Daltech's building. So right there, with no gunman being in Daltech's building, claiming Oswald was just a patsy, and him being the only assassinator, who took the other shots? Okay, he said the other 2 shots came from the Daltech's building. No, they didn't. And the other shots came from the county records building, which we have proof of that because we have the evidence, because of photographic evidence shows a gunman on rooftop of county records building, guy on the 2nd floor county records building, Oswald on the 6th floor Texas School Book Depository, and the 2 gunmen inside shelter number 3 on a grassy knoll there. This is photographic evidence. We can see them with rifles in their hands, aiming their rifles and everything else. But you hear James Files never even talks about none of them gunmen or their locations. He just says Daltech's building and then him behind the picket fence area. But there is no evidence to prove his story. Not one thing. He said he used a firebolt. That's the reason why JFK's head exploded. But we know for a fact today now by why reason JFK's head exploded, because of the bullet entry in the back of JFK's head and the other bullet striking JFK in the head right here on the right side, and they made contact inside his head. That's why it blowed out. But he said he used a firebolt. Okay, so he's talking about the magic bullet shot, his fatal headshot, and then that shot to the curb. But there was still a bullet hole in the back of JFK's head. He has no answers for that. Where's that bullet hole in the back of JFK's head came from? If he was the only assassin there. So you see, they're even in the images, like I pointed out, even in the images and stuff. Okay, here is the layout right here. Okay, I showed these images, show you there was no way that when we look at the picket fence area, see here, here's that picket fence area. That's the line of the picket fence area. By photographic evidence, we can see from this point here to this point right here, and there was no gunman behind that picket fence. By photographic evidence, there is no gunman behind that picket fence. The only thing we're known about a gunman behind a picket fence is a story that is told. There is no pure evidence to back up any shots come from the picket fence. Only stories are made. But the stories were made up as years go by. In the beginning, everybody heard the shots, but they didn't see where the shots came from. It wasn't until years later when people started, when one researcher and another researcher says there was a gunman behind a picket fence. It was reported in the newspaper. The grassy knoll, the gunman was behind the grass, above the grassy knoll, because that's where grassy knoll actually started from a newspaper article. And it was a gunman behind that picket fence. That's when everybody's reading that. They're going to say, okay, well, I was there that day. So let me tell you something. There was a gunman behind a picket fence. How I know? Because I seen him. They placed that gunman up and down the picket fence all along here and right here. And then the people that's claiming these has been proven that they was telling false stories, but still people want to push us. They're still going around telling people the same old story that, hey, the assassination happened, the gunman was behind the picket fence, and I was there, I seen it, so I don't care what anybody says, I seen it, I seen him take shots, when they really didn't. All they're doing is telling you a false story. There is no evidence of any gunman behind a picket fence. As I point out here, the Mormon photo shows us. We can see the whole section of the picket fence area. The Zapruder film, we can see part of the section of this picket fence area. We see nobody there. In Orville Nix film, we can see one part to one part of the picket fence area. There is nobody there. There is no motions or movement behind that picket fence area. Period. And just like I pointed out, you know, in some of my research and stuff like that, I point out, why would any assassin would leave their back open up, standing behind this picket fence area with nobody behind them? Because someone could come up right behind them and jump them while they're taking them shots. Or someone could come along and shoot them. Okay, but because there's police officers on this overpass right here. Okay, they claim they didn't hear they only heard 2 shots come from this direction over here, but they didn't see where the shots came from. They know there wasn't no shots coming from the overpass because they was right there. So a cop can usually run right around here and take a shot right to that assassin if there was one behind a fence area. Assassin will never leave behind, leave his back flank open up. Okay, your front cover is wood, which they could take a shot right through the wood and strike you still. And your back flank, you have no cover behind you. Okay, look at a lot of things in the past. Everybody that did assassinations and stuff like that in the past of other things, either they came up right up on the person, like you see Oswald, what Jack Ruby did to Oswald. Okay, but anybody using a high-powered sniper's rifle or a rifle from a location, they're up high and they're shooting down at people. Okay, they don't sit there and go out in the open and do this. They try to keep themselves undercover. Just like when it comes to JFK assassination. There was no gunman behind a picket fence area. This is a false story that's added to this case so they can get that fame, so they can get that glory, so they can get that money, because the people that are making these statements are traveling around from state to state or even traveling to Dallas, Texas every year, making money on their special appearances, writing their books and everything else because they said there's a gunman behind a picket fence area. But when you go there and you see these people talking and everything else, you say, where's the evidence at? I don't see it in this book. I got your book right here. Where's the evidence at? Do you have an image of this gunman? You're telling me a story is all you're telling me. That's all you're telling me is a story. You're not showing me no evidence. You just tell me a story. You point at one location, just like there's one person. I'm not going to say the person's name, but they claim they was there. There was eyewitness. They claim the shots, what you watch my cursor, came from this location over here. Then it came from the corner of the picket fence. Then it came from down. They actually changed. If you read their stories and you go over their stuff, you'll see that they had that gunman up and down there, that same person. So they're like, what? You got all these people there, just like these people claim that Charles Harrelson was there. Okay, Charles Harrelson was there. Frank Sturgis was there. E. Howard Hunt was there. And James Files is there. Okay, so now we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 gunmen behind the picket fence area now. We have 4 gunmen. Okay, but E. Howard Hunt was the gunman. It was just Charles Harrelson, Frank Sturgis, and James Files. There was a gunman, But James Files claimed he took the fatal headshot. But people's pointing out, no, it was Charles Harrelson. No, it was Frank Sturgis. No, it was James Files. Which one was it? People can't make up their minds. This is why, as I point out in my other video, this is the reason why, that over here, the JFK researchers that believes in the 3 shots and Oswald Act alone are more up here than these people over here that claims there's a conspiracy, because they can't get a story straight. They want to believe this, and then they turn around and start believing this and say, no, that's fake over there. It's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Just like I said over a couple years ago, I posted a video, even on Facebook and everything else, where I said all of us JFK researchers get together, let's view our evidence that we have and stuff like that. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. No, we cannot view our evidence. Okay, because if you start willing out, well, Frank Sturgis couldn't have been there. Charles Harrelson couldn't have been there. Or James Files couldn't be there. What's going to happen? What is going to happen? They're going to say, well, you found out you're all wrong, and you're all wrong, and you're all wrong. They don't want to be proven wrong because they want people to know that they're right, but they don't want to be proven wrong. So they won't do this. Even after I offered my hand open to a lot of them, and I said, we should do this together. Let's get it together one time. Everybody put their evidence together and stuff, and let's show this. Okay, we can all get in the same room. They don't want to do this because if they do it, they don't want to be proven wrong. Okay, because they are sticking by Frank Sturgis is there. James Files is there. Charles Harrelson was there, and then E. Howard Hunt was there. They want to stick to these stories, but there is no evidence to back any of that up. Their story is just a story. To get in history books and to make some money off of it. Like James Files, what's he got to gain? He's got to gain fame and glory now. Hey, I took the shots at JFK. Now I got me a book deal. I'm making money off my books. I'm out of prison now. So, hey, now I can make me some money. I can sit back because I know I can't get me a job. So I'm going to make money and live off my royalties. Same as these, Charles Harrelson, he passed away. He's already gone. Frank Sturgis, same thing. Okay, E. Howard Hunt, same thing. Okay. A lot of people are still making tons and tons of money year after year off this, because even if you see right here, in this image here, as you see someone set up, I'm not going to mention the person's name because everybody knows who it is. All right, sets up here every single day to sell books, DVDs, movies, and all this stuff, you know. So everybody looks at the JFK assassination as, to me, they look at it as a money-making industry. And any false story they could throw in there that was going to sell, they're going to do it so they can make that money. Just like the picket fence gunman. There is no evidence to show there's a picket fence gunman. There is no evidence, period. The gunman was in shelter number 3. That's a proven fact because not only we can talk about it, we can see it with our own eyes. We can see it. We see them with guns. We see them with rifles, aiming rifles, and firing rifles from that location. The fatal headshot was the biggest thing that everybody wants to bring up is the fatal headshot to JFK, but they want to pin it at the picket fence area. But it did not come from the picket fence area. It came from shelter number 3. Then there's people out there want to push it from the south side of Dealey Plaza. That's where that fatal headshot came from. But then again, it didn't. It came from shelter number 3. People once claimed that Oswald took that fatal headshot to JFK. Then they're trying to prove it that way, but it didn't. It came from shelter number 3. Okay, they can say all they want, but it always goes back to shelter number 3 is the gunman that took the fatal headshot. And to prove that there was a conspiracy, they got to place a gunman behind that picket fence area. They have to do that so they can prove there was a conspiracy, but they have no evidence to prove it. I have the evidence to show there was a conspiracy because there was more gunmen there because we could see by photographic evidence. We could see them taking shots from them locations. We could see them with rifles in them locations. But they don't want to back that up because if they backed it up, they're going to say, well, James Files, I'm saying James Files did it, so I'm proven wrong. I can't do that because if I said I'm wrong, that means my money is going to stop. No one's going to buy my books no more. Or somebody sitting there saying Frank Sturgis did it or Charles Harrelson did it. Well, I can't say that because, you know, I can't agree with you because if I agree with you, that means that proves me wrong and my money's going to stop because no one's going to be buying my books or even hear me going back to doing speeches on these things and stuff like that. So, see, they're not going to do that. Okay, they're not going to do that. They just want to keep on bringing these rumors out, but they don't understand that actually they're hurting the case than solving it. Okay, they're really not solving it because if they claim they're solving it, then where's the evidence at? Why you want to keep on telling me there's a gunman behind a picket fence area? Don't pull me out and say this eyewitness told me this or this eyewitness told me that because there's been some eyewitnesses that's been proven with false stories. A lot of them have. I don't want to make this video here to show people there was no gunman behind a picket fence area. We could see this in the films and images as well. Mary Mormon shows from this point to this point here, and there is no gunman there. Now remember, there's 3 guys. There's 2 guys standing here, and there's 1 guy standing right here, and a bullet strikes right here. Okay, they was in this zone here. So from this point here to this point here, one of these guys are going to get shot before JFK would be shot. Okay, so they couldn't stand here to fire, and they couldn't stand over here to fire because we can see in the Mormon photo there is nobody completely there whatsoever. Okay, so there ain't no gunman over in this section, and there ain't no gunman from this point to this point, and from this point here down here, we can see in Oral Nick's film, they would end up shooting one of these guys right here because X is over here, and that's where the turn is right here. Okay, which I'll show you right here. On this right here, we have the turn here. Here's the X. Okay, any shots that's going to come across here, excuse me, would have struck the 3 men standing on steps right here before it would strike even JFK. Okay, so there couldn't be no shots coming from that picket fence area. There has to be coming from the location where JFK is in plain sight and there ain't nobody in front of them, and that'd be shelter number 3 because every which way you want to do, you pinpoint it, it always comes back to shelter number 3. No shots coming from the Daltex building. None whatsoever. Because remember, the 4th floor and 5th floor was run by who? Mr. Zapruder. He was running them first floors there. And the other images we could see people hanging out the windows there and stuff. And if any shots was fired there, they could say, hey, man, shots came right here next to me because that's a hallway there. So anybody that was going to shoot out of this one window here, they're going to have to be in the same hallway with all these other people that's hanging out the window going, hey, Mr. President. And they hear a shot, they're going to hear right next to them, they're going to jump back and go, hey, there's a gunman right there. Let's go over and beat him up. And they would attack them too. So that's why I said, when you look at these things, you look at the evidence, you start sitting back and you're going, well, the gunman can't be here because of this fact. Or the gunman can't be here because of this fact. But people still want to put these gunmen, excuse me, still working on congestion, placing these gunmen here and there, especially behind the picket fence. There was no gunman behind the picket fence. All the stories told about the picket fence area is all false information. Excuse me, I had to take a drink. But I just want to make this video here to let everybody know there was no gunman behind the picket fence. And as I showed you, by photographic evidence, we can see there was no gunman behind the picket fence area. There was none. So the stories about Charles Harrelson being there, E. Howard Hunt being there as the old tramp, Frank Sturgis being there, or James Files being there, them are all false stories again. Because even as I pointed out right here, if we look at this map here, we can see by photographic evidence, the Mormon photo, when we show at this angle, goes from this point to this point here. Shows us no gunman. Spruder film shows us from this point here to this point here, no gunman. The Mormon Orville Nix film shows us from this point here to this point here, no gunman. So now we got this whole map area, and all this lines up to where we could see by photographic evidence the whole picket fence area, and there is no gunman behind that picket fence, and no shots coming from behind that picket fence. We got Mary Mormon in the blue, her view that she's seen in her image. Spruder film is in red, and the Orville Nix film is in yellow. And by these marks here, you can see there is no gunman in any of the films or images, and there is no evidence to prove there was a gunman behind the picket fence area. Only a story. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to show this and share this video with your friends, relatives on social medias and stuff. Let them know this information as well. There was no gunman behind the picket fence area. The true location of the gunman on the grassy knoll was in shelter number 3. This is based on photographic evidence. Thank you, and you have a pleasant day.